Good morning, Solaris! Did I do that right? Please tell me I did it right. We finally know Denia's full kit, and in this video I will answer all your most burning questions. Should you pull for her even though the collab is on the horizon? Is she the new Lynae? Just how universal she is? How to build her? What are her best teams? So relax, grab a drink and watch me as I break her apart bit by bit. Much like 𝗖cie did. Sorry Denia, please come home early, please don't shaft me, it was just a joke. And let's start this off with a quick summary of her kit. Denia has two modes just like Lynae and aemeath, and she can just switch between them on the fly as long as she is not in combat, Fusion Burst and Toon Strain. In the Fusion Burst mode obviously she applies Fusion Burst, and she also increases the fusion damage of everyone on your team by 30%. This is a passive, no condition, no cooldown, no duration. If you have Denia in Fusion Burst mode on your team, well, that's it. Everyone just gets free 30% fusion damage, and that includes herself, and her outro increases the Fusion Burst damage by 60%. Now, in her second mode, in the Toon Strain mode, her passive gives 10 Toon Break boost no matter what. This is the baseline. This can increase to a maximum of 50 depending on the toon build-up rate of your team. In other words, if you have mornye on the team, you'll get 50 toon break boost, 10 otherwise. Maybe there will be more toon build-up rate characters in the future, but right now, she is tied to mornye. And her outro gives 50% damage amplification. This increases to 40% if and only if the upcoming character applies Toon Strain. So yeah. She also has a passive that fills the toon level of enemies by half whenever they get hit by anyone on your team with Toon Strain. And this thing is already amazing in Tower of Adversity because it speeds up the ramping of the Toon Strain mechanic. But really, it is insane in Whimpering Wastes because every single wave of enemies is gonna start with half of their toon level filled. And let's remember the synergy with mornye. Mornye applies that insane buff, but only for 8 seconds whenever your teammates use that Toon Break skill. Well, now she's gonna have way more coverage. And while this is not a buff, it is just as important, if not more important. She creates a field that lasts 30 seconds, so it's pretty much permanent, that gathers enemies every 4 seconds. This is absolutely broken for Whimpering Wastes, and I believe even on teams where she has no synergy, people will just draft her because she just gives permanent gathering. Now, with the buffs on the table, it is obvious Denia is intended to be played with aemeath in her Fusion Burst form because aemeath is the only character in the entire game right now that can apply Fusion Burst, and Luke is supposed to be her best partner in the Toon Strain form because, well, Luke is the only character that applies Toon Strain shifting outside of, I guess, Lynae, so only he can really take advantage of that 40% damage amplification on her outro. But before jumping to the team sections and what other teams you can build before these two and how to properly use these two teams and just how broken they are, it is time to first show you how to build Denia. And let's start it off with the weapons. Her signature weapon is obviously gonna be her best in slot. This thing is a beast. It comes with 36% crit rate, just like the String Master, and we all know just how powerful that weapon is. It also has 36% Resonance Liberation damage bonus, with Denia dealing most of her damage as Resonance Liberation, and also 24% attack increase. This is massive because it also works for Denia. It only requires her to apply Fusion Burst or Toon Strain shifting, and she does that with every single one of her abilities. So she's gonna trigger the 24% attack increase during her own rotation, and at the end of the rotation, this duration is gonna be reset. Now, I'm just gonna mention this. Yes, this weapon is crazy, however, 40% damage increase for Denia is not the same as 40% damage increase for Prolova. Denia is at the end of the day a sub DPS, so her own damage is not gonna be that crazy. Of course, that 24% attack increase for the entire team is still very, very hard. But let's be honest, most of us will not be able to afford to go for this weapon, especially with the collab on the horizon. Pulling for Denia is one thing, but pulling for her signature too is gonna be a bit of a stretch. So if you don't plan to go for this signature, or at the very least you don't plan to go for it now, maybe you wait for the rerun, you have a few other options. And we have here 𝗖𝗍 to show them. Just as before, just like always, String Master is gonna be the second best option that you have. Denia uses her skill a few times during her rotation, so you get this 12% attack increase. If you don't have the String Master, because Kuro is no longer rerunning this weapon, and I mean, of course, they are also not rerunning Inlin, but mostly this weapon, then Lynae Elegy is gonna be her third best option. It just has this 8% defense ignore. That's about it. No other part of the passive is gonna be useful. I mean, of course, the attack increase is nice, but that's about it. And if you don't have these 3 weapons, then any of the other 5 stars that have crit rate or crit damage are gonna work. Like Cantarella's weapon, or Phoebe's weapon, or 𝗖𝗍's weapon, which I don't have because I used String Master on her until now. So, yeah. But if you are an F2P, you also have the option of using Cosmic Ripples. It's gonna be way worse in terms of damage than Denia's signature, but what can you do? The free weapon from 𝗖𝗍𝗆𝗵𝗵, the Bosom Astrolabe, is just plainly worse, so I will never consider it, even though I have multiple copies of it. However, it is what it is, you know, it has just way too much energy regen. You overcap way too easily, and it's conditional on casting Toon Break skill, which is not nice. Now, if you have Augment at rank 5, this is the Battle Pass weapon, it's not exactly F2P, but if you have this at rank 5, it's gonna be slightly better than Cosmic Ripples. And of course, if you are complete F2P, then the 𝗖𝗍𝗆𝗵𝗁 is gonna be your best friend. If you plan to use Denia in Fusion Burst mode, you can also use Waltz in Masquerade. This increases the attack of the character by the amount of negative statuses inflicted. And in her Fusion Burst, the form Denia inflicts Fusion Burst, so yeah, you are gonna be able to trigger it. Of course, you need rank 5 for this thing, which means that you need to farm a lot and craft a bit for it. And also it only works for that mode in particular, so yeah. I will just take 𝗖𝗍𝗆𝗵𝗁 until I can get a better option for her, as it works for both of her modes. And now, it's time for the echo part. And she has two and she has 2 different echo sets. First of all, you can use the chromatic foam set when she is in the Fusion Burst mode. You are using her doll, I guess, as the main echo. It provides 12% increase in fusion damage for the upcoming resonator, and obviously the Fusion Burst mode of Denia is meant to be used with other Fusion Burst characters. For the 3 costs, you are looking at fusion damage bonus, attack percent, and attack percent. And just like before, the substats are gonna be attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, resonance liberation if you have the space, and you are also gonna need some energy regen. I would suggest around 20 to 30% energy regen just to be on the safe side. Now, this is for the Fusion Burst mode, but she has another mode that's gonna be the Toon Strain mode, and for this you are looking at Reel of Spliced Memories, which I think is also gonna be used with Lucilla just by its name. The main stats are gonna be the same, just like before: fusion damage for the 3 costs, for the 4 cost crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent for the 1 cost, and the same with the substats. What you need to pay attention to is that you are gonna use Voidwing Math in the main echo slot. It increases the attack of the upcoming resonator by 12%. Don't make a mistake and put a Nameless Explorer there. And now the question is, when should you use the Fusion Burst mode and when to use the Toon Strain mode? So let's just jump into the team building section. And we are gonna start it off with the most powerful team that you can possibly make with Denia in her Fusion Burst mode, with aemeath and the 𝗖𝗍. Now, people were waiting for this for a long time. aemeath is already a goddess in Tower of Adversity. She is one of, if not the best DPS that you can possibly use in that game mode. However, she was lagging behind in Whimpering Wastes badly. 𝗖𝗆𝗆𝗆 is even better than her in Whimpering Wastes, and 𝗖𝗆𝗆𝗆 did not have her signature partner. However, the Fusion Burst team is the mode that was intended for Whimpering Wastes, while Toon Rapture was intended for Tower of Adversity. And before, the Fusion Burst team of aemeath was kind of, well, fully copium. then Denia solves that issue. Not only that, she also comes with permanent gathering through her field. So this is just gonna launch 𝗖meath on the tier list for Whimpering Wastes. Is she gonna be at the same level as 𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵 and Sigrika teams? There is a chance, but I am cautiously optimistic on that front. We are gonna pull for her and test her out when the banner drops. So if you want to watch that live, make sure to press that damn subscribe button. However, even if she's not at the levels of 𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵 and Sigrika, I think she's still gonna be the third best team for Whimpering Wastes, and we needed this. The 𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵 and Sigrika teams are so far ahead currently of every other team in the game. So what's happening is if Kuro releases Whimpering Wastes rotation with enemies that are resistant to Aero or Havoc, then people are just gonna complain on Reddit, and you're gonna have YouTubers make videos about how this is the worst rotation ever. Now, if you don't have 𝗖cie, she's gonna be the most replaceable here, mostly because there is no fusion burst team without 𝗖meath and Denia. Instead of 𝗖cie, you can use mornye for a full fusion team. It's just a bit of hope, you know. It's gonna take advantage of the 30% fusion damage, but it's not gonna be that great of an increase in damage. Personally, I would just go with the old and reliable Shorekeeper, or if you are desperate, you don't have other characters, you can also use Verina. Just remember, 𝗖cie provides a limit increase to the amount of fusion burst stacks on enemies, and no other character in the game currently can replace her on that front. All the other options are just gonna be inferior ones. Now, besides the 𝗖meath team, you can use her on the mono fusion team, being fusion herself. This is always an option. You are gonna have Denia and 𝗶𝗏, and the third option is gonna be either Galbena if you want to go full damage, or Brent or mornye if you want to go for some healing. This is gonna be insane, because what's the point of ever using Changli in mono fusion teams anymore when you have Denia? Denia simply increases the fusion damage of the entire team by 30% from the very beginning. Changli's outro just provides fusion damage to the upcoming resonator and that nice skill damage bonus, but really, it cannot compete with 30% fusion damage to everyone permanently. This was for the fusion burst mode of Denia. Now, if you want to use her in the Toon Strain mode, the best team that you can possibly make here is gonna be with Luke and mornye. For the Toon Strain mode, you definitely need mornye because it increases the Toon Break boost that she gets from 10 to 50. So are pretty much tied together permanently. Luke is gonna take full advantage of that Toon Break boost because before Lynae was not able to provide all the Toon Break boost in order to activate his passive fully. It only activated it by 20%. So you can see that there is quite a big difference between using Luke with Lynae and using Luke with Denia. Here, Denia completely surpasses Lynae in all categories. Now, besides using Luke, you can just use the Denia mornye pair with pretty much any DPS in the game. However, we need to do this. Lynae versus Denia in terms of who is more flexible, and Lynae just wins. The buffs are pretty similar in terms of outro and forte. Denia gives 10 more Toon Break boost, but this is conditional on having mornye, and it can be quite awkward on certain teams and certain rotations and comps. And Lynae just gives 24% damage bonus with her liberation straight off the bat. So yeah, that just puts her ahead by miles. So people were saying that Denia is like an universal support. She is, but there are just better options, and I think by this point most of us already have Lynae. Of course, we have to consider that Denia also comes with Gathering again for Whimpering Wastes. Is this gonna be enough to surpass the extra stats that Lynae gives? Well, I guess we're gonna have to see when her banner drops. And now for the long-awaited question: should you pull for Denia or should you skip? Look, I guess many of you already pretty much figured this out, but with the collab approaching, you are gonna need enough pulls to guarantee 𝗖cie, to guarantee her signature and Rebecca's signature. So you are looking at around 300 pulls, unless you get lucky, and please don't bet on being lucky, okay? Don't do that. In other words, Denia could be the most broken character in the game, but it does not change the fact that she will rerun the collab. We don't know for sure if it will have a rerun or even how long it will last. but maybe you also want sequences for the collab or dupes of the weapons, because again, this might be your only chance to get them. But let's say you are someone that does not care about the collab, or maybe you are just interested in her potential now for maybe future reruns. Well, in that case, Denia is gonna be insane with aemeath. This will allow aemeath's team to just shine in Whimpering Wastes. We have already two good Whimpering Wastes teams, the Sigrika and the 𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗵 team. And with Denia will also have the aemeath team. And even if you don't have aemeath, you can use her on the mono fusion team. And I would say that top tier Whimpering Wastes team are hard to come by these days, okay? And if you have both aemeath and Luke, then she's pretty much irreplaceable. Before, these two characters were kind of awkward because both of them wanted Lynae, you know? But now you can use Denia on one side and Lynae on the other. However, now the bad things, right? She's not as universal as Lynae. So if you already have Lynae and you don't have Luke or aemeath, or you already set for Whimpering Wastes, then there is pretty much no reason to ever go for Denia. Even for Luke, I will not go for Denia purely for Luke, because it's just gonna make him stronger in Tower of Adversity, yes, but he's already decent, more than good enough to clear the tower, right? And she's gonna buff him for Whimpering Wastes, but I still don't know, I still don't think he's gonna be enough to make him his team a viable option for that game mode. With that being said, I hope I answered all the questions that you had in this video. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day. Good luck with your pulls. We all gonna need all the luck in the world. I plan to go for 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆. Wish me good luck too, and bye for now.